Hello, today is April 4th, 2020, and I'm just documenting the work that's been done in my bathroom by Handyman Pros. The work that hasn't been completed, along with the quality of work in the bathroom as it stands as they left it earlier in March. Then I'm going to have another company come in and professionally complete. So I'll just go through the rooms here and show you kind of where things have been left, as well as some of the major quality issues of the work that they've done and not wanting to fix and complete the job correctly to standards. So as you can see, there's still a lot of things that still need to be done to complete the bathroom. And I'll go through those things now. So our main issue with the bathroom thus far has been the quality of the tile on the floor. Number one, the spacing of the tiles, the line up of the tiles. We can see here the difference in grout thickness between the line here and here. And that's consistent throughout all of this floor, which was not done with tile spacers. It was done by hand. As you walk across the floor, you can feel the tiles going in all the different directions. Here you can see how this tile is about a quarter of an inch to a half inch below the door jamb and below the next tiles next to it. And so this lip here and here, this is a sharp corner that is up about a quarter of an inch above the tile next to it. Okay, this is consistent on a number of these tiles and these corners. They're not level. They're not set next to each other. And you can see the grout lines are different widths here compared to over here. And overall, it was just done very quickly, very poorly. The grout is not done nicely. Again, corners. This is something that you walk with your bare feet on. This is not a good quality job where things are level. They talk about the grout that I used or purchased. This is the #1 premium grout from Floor & Decor that replaces sanded and unsanded grouts. It's quick setting and is the #1 recommended one from Floor & Decor. So my complaints with the floor aren't the tile shape, isn't the grout color, isn't the pattern. It's purely the quality of the work that was done. Here we're seeing about 3/4 of an inch of grout on this corner, which transitions to none down there. And there is a significant gap underneath the trim, etc., that I'm sure would have been just filled in with whatever material. The tile around the toilet here wasn't cut correctly and just filled in with grout. When we had Libertyville Tile come out and look, one of the things that they noticed is you can knock on these tiles and they move a little bit. There's not enough thin set behind here. If you can hear that, this tile they think is going to break because there's not enough thin set behind it. And so overall, their assessment was that it wasn't laid correctly, wasn't laid appropriately with the right amount of gaps and straight enough, and it should be pulled up and replaced to have a quality job. Okay, the second concern is the tile in the shower. So here, the issue is, again, not using spacers, having, tiles misaligned on this edge where they're almost touching here to a larger line up here. Again, not in a straight line, not using tile spacers. And what we end up with is, in the joint, tiles that are varying levels of really close together, far apart, close together. Overall, again, not a high quality job on the tile here. As we pan over to the other corner, we see it as well. Very thin, going up and getting wider and off pattern. We go down, same thing. You can even come down here where there's no grout in here whatsoever. Okay? Then on this side, same thing. We've got tiles barely spaced apart, transitioning to where very far apart, which leads to unaligned tiles here and in the corners. Not as bad as the floor, but again, this coupled with the grout job, I'll see if I can get here, being pretty poor on the edges, is not up to quality in finishing the bathroom. The second issue with the tub that we had is that this new valve that we replaced in the bathtub, which you see here on the box, has a plaster plate, as you can see, as well as a bracket that goes around the outside of the valve so that the trim kit can screw into it. What we see here is that they didn't use the plaster guard and instead broke the tile here, and that's going to leave additional space. Also behind here, they didn't put the bracket that the trim kit needs to screw into. Here is the plaster guard that should be on the outside, and this is the bracket that should be on the opposite side of the wall, so that this trim kit can screw into it. Instead, what they were doing was they pushed this molly bolt back there, and we're trying to get this to catch the way it was instead of correcting it the way that it should have been done. The other shortcut, as you see down here on the bathtub spout, is instead of cutting the hole or a 1-inch square around this in the tile to put the tile back up against here so it's flushed, we have an inch gap above and an inch gap below, to where now you can see here, this is where, and they filled this with grout, this is where the tub surround goes to, and this is just an empty space above and below on where the spout would be. So again, taking shortcuts with these tiles is the issue there, and that needs to be corrected. The third major issue we have is all of the drywall that was put up was never taped and it was never mudded. What they did instead, to save time, was to caulk the joints. So this here you can see is already dried and cracked, and this is caulk. It can't be sanded and painted. Right? We can see here, this is the white caulk. They just put caulk in between here. So at all of the joints, here's the other corner, that's just caulk sprayed in to go over. No taping, no mudding. And this is as of Friday morning, the day that they said is the last day here. They're going to finish the job. So no time in their schedule to mud and tape. Plan was to just paint over this. This is all just caulk. Smooth by a finger. You can't sand that. All of that needs to be mudded and taped and the caulk pulled out. As we look in the main area here, same thing to a larger extent. If I look up here, this is over 1/3 of an inch of caulk. You can see I can put my entire finger in there. This corner here, that's just caulk. No mud, no tape, caulking the seams and expecting to paint over it. All the way around. Again, it's a quick way to finish a job. So what needs to be completed for this bathroom to be done to what was in our contract to be completed with high quality work is, one, the floor needs to be pulled back up and redone. The vanity needs to be removed, the trim needs to be removed, the floor needs to be pulled up, disposed of, more material purchased, more thin set, more grout, more tile to replace the job and get it done to industry standards to where it's flat with the correct grout lines and the correct pattern. What needs to be done with the shower tile is that it also needs to be redone and pulled out and redone with the right spacing, regrouted, and caulked to finish. The valves once the tile is down and around the spout, can be fixed, or a new tile needs to be put around that. And the easy solution for that is to come from the closet on this side here and put that bracket on. Okay. Here's some more of the caulk. That was just going to get painted over. And to trim out around here the right plaster guard to make sure this is the right depth for the valve. So those three things, once that's done, then the joints need to be taped, mudded, sanded. Walls all need to be primed and painted. Contract states that walls will be primed. Ceiling needs to be painted and touched up. Trim needs to be reinstalled, caulked, nail holes filled, painted. The buried electric box that blew a fuse that then they unburied needs to be capped off. The toilet needs to be installed and hooked up. The vanity will need to be taken out, reinstalled. Then the vanity top will need to be put in. The backsplash, the plumbing, the drains, the sinks to ensure that it's working. You can see here the vanity has been fixed to the wall. But if you look down here, the trim hasn't been caulked. This wall hasn't been painted. Same on this side. Barely even nailed to the wall. So all of that finishing needs to be done. The plumbing needs to be finished. The floor transition needs to be done. The glide for the slide door needs to be reinstalled on the new tile. All of the trim in this room needs to be repainted. In this room, the window trim still needs to be done. The door trim for the inside of the bathroom was lost with the debris, so that needs to be purchased and replaced and painted as well. One of the things that is still yet to be done is debris removal. So the company threw all of the debris out the window here and had a pile in my yard for over a week. And as you can see, there's still all kinds of debris. Broken tiles, wire, cement, all throughout the side yard here. So the debris needs to be picked up. And then I'll also cover, doors need to be reinstalled. And I'll also cover the additional damage in other rooms. So here in my daughter's room, we have a hole in the wall that was broken through that they said that they would correct and fix. Hasn't been touched, hasn't been patched, hasn't been primed, hasn't been sanded, hasn't been painted. Okay. There's also damage to the ceiling in the laundry room and our living room, which was agreed upon by Handyman Pros to be fixed, which still hasn't been fixed. So with the floor needing to come back up and be done correctly, the tile in the bathtub to be set correctly, the valve and trim work to be done correctly, the remaining finishing of the seams and joints of the drywall being mudded, taped, sanded, painted, toilet being installed, vanity reinstalled with sinks, backsplash, faucets, hooking up the plumbing, reinstalling all the trim, and painting and finishing the room is not 1 day's worth of work, 8 hours worth of work. It's well over 5 days worth of work that's going to be needed to correct the quality of the floor and the drywalling, and then finish it the way that it needs to be.